When the youngest CEO in the fragrance industry collapses on a Boston street, a struggling florist rushes to help. What happens next defies medical science, threatens both their futures, and proves that some connections can't be explained, only felt. The boardroom on the 42nd floor of Calloway Tower smelled like ambition, leather, and expensive coffee. At least, that's what Etahan Calloway had been told. To him, it smelled like absolutely nothing. Mr. Calloway, the new campaign for Midnight Bloom is projected to increase market share by 18% in the luxury sector, Rebecca Chen, his marketing director, announced with barely contained excitement. Ethan nodded, his sharp grey eyes scanning the presentation on the screen. Charts, demographics, profit margins, these were the languages he spoke fluently. The language of scent, the very foundation of his billion-dollar empire, remained forever silent to him. The focus groups responded particularly well to the top notes of bergamot and jasmine, Rebecca continued. Ethan's jaw tightened imperceptibly. Bergamot, jasmine, words as meaningless to him as ancient Sanskrit. What about the bottle design, he asked, redirecting the conversation to territory where he held actual expertise. Elegant, minimalist, very Calloway. Thomas Park, his design chief, chimed in. At 28, Ethan Calloway was the youngest CEO in the fragrance industry, having inherited Calloway Fragrances at 23 when his father suffered a massive stroke. 5 years of 16-hour days, ruthless business decisions, and an almost supernatural ability to understand markets had transformed the company from a respected Boston institution into a global powerhouse. No one knew his secret. No one could know. Born with congenital anosmia, Ethan had never smelled a single thing in his entire life. Not his mother's perfume, not fresh-baked cookies, not even the salt air of Boston Harbor. He'd built an empire on something he couldn't experience, like a blind man running an art gallery. "Sir, you have a meeting with the board at 3, then the investor dinner at Legal Seafoods at 7, his assistant, David Martinez, reminded him as the meeting concluded. Ethan glanced at his watch, a vintage Patek Philippe his father had given him. 11:47 a.m. He'd been awake since 4:30 as usual. "Cancel lunch. I'll work through," Ethan said, already opening his laptop. David frowned. "Sir, you said that yesterday, and the day before. Your point?" "My point is that you're going to collapse if you don't eat something." Ethan shot him a look that had made junior executives cry. David, to his credit, didn't flinch. He'd been with Ethan since Harvard, one of the few people who'd earned the privilege of speaking candidly. "Fine, 20 minutes. I'll grab something from Faneuil Hall," Ethan conceded. The November air hit him like a slap when he exited Calloway Tower. Boston was preparing for Thanksgiving, and Faneuil Hall Marketplace buzzed with tourists and locals alike. Street performers competed for attention, while vendors hawked everything from clam chowder to Red Sox memorabilia. Ethan loosened his Tom Ford tie slightly, feeling the weight of exhaustion pressing down on his shoulders. He hadn't slept more than 4 hours a night in weeks. The launch of 3 new fragrances, a potential merger with a European competitor, and the constant pressure of hiding his condition had created a perfect storm of stress. He barely registered the crowd around him, his mind still calculating profit margins and market projections. The world tilted slightly, and he steadied himself against a brick wall. Just need food, he thought. Low blood sugar. But the world kept tilting, and suddenly the cobblestones of Faneuil Hall were rushing up to meet him. The last thing Ethan Calloway remembered before everything went black was the sound of a woman's voice, urgent and concerned, calling out, "Oh my God, someone help him!" Maya Bennett had always believed that flowers spoke a language more honest than words. Her small flower cart, positioned near the entrance of Quincy Market, was her kingdom. Modest perhaps compared to the fancy shops on Newbury Street, but it was hers. Every morning at 6, she'd visit the Boston Flower Exchange, carefully selecting each bloom, each stem, imagining the stories they'd tell in someone's home. Today's selection was particularly beautiful. Deep crimson roses from Ecuador, delicate white ranunculus, and her personal favorite, eucalyptus branches that added a wild, unexpected element to any arrangement. "Maya, you're a magician," Mrs. O'Brien, one of her regulars, exclaimed as Maya handed her a bouquet wrapped in brown paper and twine. "My daughter's going to love these." Maya grinned, tucking a strand of her dark brown hair behind her ear. "Tell her congratulations again on the new job." As Mrs. O'Brien walked away, Maya's best friend and part-time helper, Sophie Rodriguez, appeared with 2 cups of coffee from the cafe across the way. "Bless you," Maya said, accepting the cup gratefully. "So, when are you going to tell me about the mystery project in your apartment?" Sophie asked, her eyes twinkling with mischief. Maya felt her cheeks warm. "What mystery project?" "Please. Last week I came by, and your whole place smelled like a garden mixed with a spice market. You had bottles and droppers everywhere. You're making perfumes again, aren't you?" "Maya, you have a gift. Why do you keep hiding it?" "Because gifts without credentials are called fraud," Maya thought but didn't say. Instead, she busied herself rearranging a bucket of sunflowers. The truth was complicated. Since childhood, Maya had possessed an unusual ability. She could smell the individual components in any perfume and recreate them perfectly. More than that, she could create entirely new fragrances that seemed to capture emotions, memories, specific moments in time. But she'd never studied perfumery formally, never attended a prestigious school in Grasse, France, never apprenticed under a master perfumer. She was just a girl from Dorchester who happened to have a weird talent, and the imposter syndrome ate at her constantly. "I make them for fun, Soph. That's all," Maya said firmly. Sophie opened her mouth to argue but stopped, her eyes widening. "Maya, that guy—" Maya turned just in time to see a tall man in an expensive suit stumble near her cart. His face had gone pale, his eyes unfocused. "Sir, are you okay?" Maya called out. He didn't respond. His knees buckled. Maya dropped her coffee and lunged forward, managing to catch him enough to break his fall. They both went down onto the cobblestones, Maya cushioning his head with her arms. "Someone call 911, she shouted. A crowd immediately formed, typical Boston fashion, everyone wanting to help, several people already on their phones. The man's eyes fluttered open, confused and disoriented. They were grey, Maya noticed absently, like storm clouds over the Atlantic. "You're okay," Maya said softly, supporting his head. "Just breathe. Help is coming." He stared at her with an expression she couldn't quite read. Shock, maybe, or confusion. His lips parted as if to speak. Then something extraordinary happened. "You," he whispered, his voice hoarse. "I can smell you." Maya blinked. "What?" "Your perfume. I can smell it." His hand reached up, gripping her arm with surprising strength. "How is that possible?" Before Maya could ask what he meant, his eyes rolled back and he lost consciousness again. The ambulance arrived 7 minutes later, paramedics efficiently loading the mysterious man onto a stretcher. One of them picked up the wallet that had fallen from his pocket and whistled low. "Sophie," the paramedic said, recognizing her from the neighborhood. "You know who this is?" Sophie shook her head, still looking shaken. "Ethan Calloway, the Ethan Calloway, owner of Calloway Fragrances." Maya felt the blood drain from her face. The Ethan Calloway? The man whose company she'd secretly dreamed of working for since she was 16. The CEO who'd been featured in Forbes, Boston Magazine, and practically every business publication in existence. And he'd just collapsed in her arms, saying the strangest thing imaginable. As the ambulance pulled away, sirens wailing, Maya stood frozen among her flowers, his words echoing in her mind. "I can smell you." She looked down at her hands, still trembling slightly, and noticed something she hadn't before. In the chaos, his business card had fallen onto her cart. Sophie picked it up, reading the embossed lettering. "Well," she said slowly, "I think your life just got interesting." Maya took the card, running her thumb over the raised letters of his name. She had no idea how right Sophie was. Ethan woke to the annoying beep of hospital monitors and the unmistakable sterile emptiness of Massachusetts General Hospital. Of course, he only knew it was sterile because people had told him hospitals smelled like disinfectant. To him, it was the same odorless void as everywhere else, except for 7 impossible seconds in Faneuil Hall. "Welcome back to the land of the living, boss." David's voice came from the chair beside the bed. "You gave us quite a scare." Ethan tried to sit up, immediately regretting it as his head spun. "Easy," David cautioned. "Doctor says you're severely dehydrated, malnourished, and running on approximately 3 hours of sleep." Her exact words were, Your client is an idiot who's trying to kill himself. I need to leave, Ethan said, already reaching for the IV in his arm. Absolutely not. David stood, blocking his path. The doctor wants to keep you overnight for observation. David, the woman, the one who caught you when you fell. You kept asking about her in the ambulance. Ethan froze. What did I say? David pulled out his phone, reading from notes. You said, and I quote, find the flower girl. I could smell her. David, I could actually smell her. Then you passed out again. He looked up, his expression somewhere between concerned and confused. Want to explain that? Ethan's mind raced. In 28 years, he'd never smelled anything. Not once. Medical professionals had explained it was neurological, permanent, impossible to fix. He'd built his entire life around that immutable fact. Until today. I need to find her, Ethan said quietly. Why? Because something impossible happened, and I need to understand it. David studied him for a long moment. The paramedics said she works at a flower cart in Faneuil Hall. Maya something. Left her cart to ride with you in the ambulance before they sent her back. Maya. Even her name sounded like something delicate and beautiful. I need her contact information. Ethan, what's really going on? Ethan met his assistant's eyes. David had been loyal for 6 years, discreet beyond measure. If there was anyone he could trust with this, I've never been able to smell anything in my entire life, Ethan said quietly. It's called congenital anosmia, complete inability to perceive scent. David's eyes widened. But you run a fragrance company. I know. Ethan laughed bitterly. Ironic, isn't it? I've hidden it my whole life, built everything on chemistry reports, focus groups, market research. I understand perfume intellectually the way someone might understand music by reading sheet music without ever hearing a note. My God, David breathed. Does anyone else know? My father knew. He's the only one. Until now. Ethan leaned forward intently. David, when I fell, when that woman, Maya, caught me, for the first time in my life I smelled something. It was brief, maybe 7 seconds, but it was real. Flowers and vanilla and something else, something I don't even have words for. That's medically impossible. I know, that's why I need to find her. Maya couldn't stop thinking about the grey-eyed CEO who'd collapsed in her arms. Earth to Maya. Sophie waved a hand in front of her face. You've been staring at that rose for 5 minutes. They were in Maya's small apartment in Jamaica Plain, surrounded by her secret obsession. Glass bottles lined makeshift shelves, filled with essential oils, alcohol, distilled water. Her kitchen table had been transformed into a perfumer's organ, though calling it that felt presumptuous. Real perfumers had trained for years. She was just playing. Sorry, Maya said, setting down the rose. I can't stop thinking about what he said. I can smell you is definitely a weird thing to say to someone, Sophie agreed, sprawled on the futon. Maybe he was hallucinating. You said he looked exhausted. Maybe. But Maya couldn't shake the intensity in his eyes, the wonder in his voice. Her phone buzzed. Unknown number. Hello? Is this Maya Bennett? A professional male voice. Yes? My name is David Martinez. I'm the executive assistant to Ethan Calloway. Mr. Calloway would like to meet with you to thank you personally for your assistance today. Would you be available tomorrow morning at 10? Maya's heart hammered. Yes, I could do that. Excellent. Calloway Tower, 42nd floor. I'll leave your name with security. He hung up before Maya could ask any of the 100 questions suddenly flooding her mind. Sophie sat up. Was that? He wants to meet me, Maya said, staring at her phone. Tomorrow morning, at his office. Oh my God, Sophie squealed. Maya, this is perfect. You could show him your perfumes. He owns the biggest fragrance company in New England. Panic seized Maya's chest. Absolutely not. Why not? Because I'm not a real perfumer, Sophie. I never studied. I don't have credentials or training or... You have talent that's worth more than any degree. Not in the real world, Maya said firmly. In the real world, talent without credentials makes you a fraud. Sophie's expression softened. Your mum really did a number on you, didn't she? Maya flinched. Her mother, a bitter woman who'd never achieved her own dreams, had spent Maya's childhood warning her that pretty girls from Dorchester with big ideas ended up disappointed. Don't get above your station, she'd say. Know your place. Maya had internalized those words more than she cared to admit. "I'm going to thank him for checking on me. Be polite and leave," Maya said. "That's all." But even as she said it, a traitorous part of her wondered what it might be like to actually work with perfumes professionally, to create something beautiful and have it matter, to be more than just the flower girl. The next morning, Maya stood in front of Calloway Tower in her nicest dress, a navy blue number from Target that Sophie had helped her pick out, feeling completely out of place. The building was all glass and steel, reflecting the grey November sky. Through the windows, she could see impeccably dressed people moving with purpose. Security cleared her quickly, and an elevator whisked her to the 42nd floor so fast her ears popped. The reception area was stunning. Minimalist furniture, abstract art, and, she noticed with professional interest, a stunning arrangement of white orchids and twisted willow branches. "Miss Bennett!" A handsome man in his 30s approached, hand extended. "David Martinez, thank you for coming." "Of course. How is Mr. Calloway?" "Stubborn and already back at work despite doctor's orders," David said with a slight smile. "Right this way." He led her through an open office space where young professionals worked at standing desks, past a conference room with a view that stretched all the way to Boston Harbor, and finally to a corner office with floor-to-ceiling windows. Ethan Calloway stood with his back to the door, phone pressed to his ear, speaking in rapid French. He'd changed into a fresh suit, charcoal grey, impeccably tailored, and looked nothing like the pale, vulnerable man who'd collapsed yesterday. "Oui, je comprends. Merci, Philippe." He ended the call and turned. Their eyes met, and Maya felt something electric pass between them. "Miss Bennett," he said, his voice careful, controlled, "thank you for coming, and for yesterday." "I'm glad you're okay," Maya said. "You really scared everyone. Please, sit." He gestured to the chairs facing his desk, but remained standing himself as if too restless to sit. "I wanted to thank you personally, but I also need to ask you something. It's going to sound strange." "Okay," Maya said slowly. "What perfume were you wearing yesterday?" Maya blinked. Of all the questions she'd expected, that wasn't one. I wasn't wearing perfume. I never do. I work with flowers all day, and I don't want to interfere with their scent." Something flickered across his face. Disappointment, maybe, or confusion. "But you smelled like vanilla and flowers. Something else, too. Amber, perhaps." Heat crept up Maya's neck. "That might have been from my apartment. I was experimenting with some oils that morning. Making soap," she added quickly, the lie coming easier than the truth. "Making soap," he repeated, his grey eyes sharp, assessing. "It's just a hobby." He moved closer, and Maya's breath caught. He was tall, at least 6'2", and there was an intensity about him that made the spacious office suddenly feel intimate. "May I ask you something personal, Miss Bennett?" "Maya, and I guess?" "Do you know anything about anosmia?" She searched her memory. "Isn't that the inability to smell?" "Yes." He paused, and she could see him weighing his words carefully. "I have congenital anosmia. I was born without the ability to smell anything at all." Maya's jaw dropped. "But you run a perfume company." "I know, ironic." A ghost of a smile touched his lips. "I've hidden it my entire life. Built the company using chemistry, market research, focus groups. I understand perfume intellectually, but I've never experienced it. Until yesterday." "Yesterday? When you caught me when I was falling, I smelled you. For 7 seconds, maybe less, I actually perceived scent for the first time in my life." He leaned against his desk, his expression vulnerable in a way that made her chest tighten. "Maya, I need to understand why. What is it about you?" Maya's mind reeled. This was impossible, scientifically impossible, but the earnestness in his voice, the hope in his eyes, that was real. "I don't know," she whispered. I'm nobody. I sell flowers." "You're not nobody," Ethan said softly. "You're the only person in the world who can give me something I've never had. I need your help." "My help? How?" "I want to hire you. As a consultant, help me figure out what's happening, why you trigger this response." He named a figure that made Maya's head spin, more than she made in 6 months at her flower cart. "That's insane," she managed. "That's desperation," he corrected. "Will you help me?" Maya looked at him. This powerful, brilliant man who was looking at her like she held the answer to everything. Warning bells rang in her head. This was dangerous. Getting close to him meant he might discover her secret, her talent, her complete lack of credentials. But another part of her, the part that had always dreamed of something more, whispered that this was her chance. "Okay," she heard herself say. "I'll help you." The smile that transformed his face was worth every risk. Maya's first day as a fragrance consultant began with what Ethan called controlled exposure experiments, and what Maya privately called the weirdest job ever. "So let me get this straight," she said, standing in a private lab on the 41st floor of Calloway Tower. "You want me to just stand near you?" "Essentially, yes." Ethan was taking notes on an iPad, looking every bit the scientist despite his $3,000 suit. "We need to establish baseline parameters, distance, duration, environmental factors." David sat in the corner, ostensibly there to take additional notes, but clearly entertained by the whole situation. "This is bizarre," Maya muttered. "Welcome to my life," Ethan replied without looking up. "Let's start at 3 feet. He positioned her exactly 3 feet away. He'd actually measured with a tape measure, which made Maya want to laugh and cry simultaneously, and stood perfectly still, eyes closed, breathing carefully. "Anything?" David asked after 30 seconds. "Nothing." Ethan's jaw clenched in frustration. "Closer. 2 feet." They repeated the process. Still nothing. 1 foot. Maya stepped closer, now near enough to see the flecks of blue in his grey eyes, to notice he had a tiny scar above his left eyebrow. He was handsome in that austere patrician way. Sharp cheekbones, strong jaw, the kind of face that belonged on magazine covers. Not that she was noticing. "Still nothing," he said, opening his eyes. They were standing so close she had to tilt her head back to maintain eye contact. Maybe it was just a fluke, a hallucination brought on by dehydration. Or, Maya said carefully, "Maybe you need to stop thinking so hard about it." "Excuse me? You're treating this like a business problem, all clinical and controlled. But yesterday, when it happened, you were vulnerable, unguarded." She surprised herself with her boldness. "Maybe that matters." Ethan stared at her for a long moment. "That's actually insightful." "I have my moments," Maya said dryly. "Let's try something," David suggested. "Maya, talk to him. Tell him about something you care about." Ethan, just listen, stop analyzing. Ethan looked skeptical but nodded. Maya took a breath. "Okay. Well, I guess I could tell you about why I love flowers." "Sure. People think flowers are just pretty decorations, but they're not. They're communication. Every bloom has meaning. Red roses for passion, white lilies for peace, yellow carnations for disappointment." She found herself relaxing, the words coming easier. When someone buys flowers, they're really buying a message they can't articulate themselves. And arranging them is like composing a symphony. You need high notes and low notes, textures, colors that complement and contrast. She was gesturing now, animated. There's this moment when you're creating an arrangement and everything just clicks into place. All the elements harmonize, and you know you've captured exactly the right feeling. "It's like finding the perfect scent pyramid," Ethan said softly. His eyes had closed again, but his expression had changed. Less rigid. Top notes, heart notes, bass notes, all working together to tell a story. "Exactly," Maya said, pleased he understood. "Vanilla," Ethan breathed. His eyes flew open, wide with shock. "I can smell vanilla. And something green, fresh, like cutting grass." "Eucalyptus," Maya said, her heart racing. "I had eucalyptus stems at my cart yesterday." "It's fading already," Ethan said urgently, stepping even closer. "But it was there, I smelled you." They stood frozen, inches apart, the air between them charged with something Maya couldn't name. "Well," David said, breaking the spell, "that was definitely not nothing." Over the next week, they fell into a strange routine. Maya would arrive at Calloway Tower each morning, and they'd spend hours trying to recreate the phenomenon. Sometimes it worked. Brief, tantalizing glimpses of scent that left Ethan hungry for more. Sometimes it didn't, leaving him frustrated and withdrawn. Maya learned things about him, that he took his coffee black with exactly 1 sugar cube, that he was fluent in French and Italian, necessary for dealing with European perfume houses, that he had a dry wit that caught her off guard and made her laugh despite herself. "Your flower cart," he said one morning during a break in their experiments. "How did you get into that?" Maya shrugged, uncomfortable. Needed a job, liked flowers. It wasn't exactly a calling, just practical. "I don't believe that." He leaned back in his chair, studying her. "You talk about flowers the way poets write about love. It's more than practical." She felt exposed, seen in a way she wasn't used to. "What about you? Did you always want to run a perfume company?" His expression darkened. "I didn't have a choice. My father built Calloway fragrances from nothing, and when he had his stroke, it fell to me. I was 23, barely out of Harvard, suddenly responsible for 3,000 employees and a legacy I couldn't even experience. That must have been terrifying." "It was, still is sometimes." He met her eyes. "Everyone expects me to be my father, this brilliant perfumer with an infallible nose. If they knew the truth, they'd see how hard you've worked," Maya finished. "How smart you are to build something despite your limitations. Or they'd see me as a fraud." The word hung between them, and Maya felt her stomach drop. Fraud. The exact word that haunted her own dreams. "You're not a fraud," she said firmly. "A fraud doesn't put in the work, doesn't earn their success." "Is that what you tell yourself?" Ethan asked quietly. Maya blinked. "What?" "I've watched you this week, Maya. The way you react when I mention perfume creation. The way you change the subject whenever David asks about your soap making. You're hiding something." Panic fluttered in her chest. "I don't know what you mean." "I think you do." He stood, moving around the desk toward her. "I think you know more about fragrance than you're letting on." "I sell flowers," Maya said, backing toward the door. "That's all." "Maya, I should go. It's late." She practically fled, her heart hammering, knowing she'd revealed too much and somehow not enough. That weekend, unable to shake her conversation with Ethan, Maya did something impulsive. She made him a perfume. She worked through the night in her tiny apartment, blending essential oils with the instinct that had always guided her. She thought about him as she worked, his intensity, his vulnerability, the way his whole face transformed on those rare occasions when he smiled. The result was unlike anything she'd created before. Sharp and sophisticated, with bergamot and black pepper top notes, a heart of leather and tobacco, and a base of cedar and amber. Masculine, but not aggressive. Complex, but not overwhelming. It smelled like Ethan would smell if he stood in his corner office, looking out at Boston Harbor, allowing himself one moment of peace. On Monday morning, her hands shook as she set the small bottle on his desk. "What's this?" Ethan asked, picking it up. "A gift. A thank you for the job." The words came out rushed, nervous. He opened it carefully, and even though he couldn't smell it, he studied the amber liquid with a perfumer's eye. "You made this?" "It's just a hobby," she said quickly. "Like I said, for fun." "Maya," his voice was gentle. "This isn't amateur work. The color, the viscosity, even the way the oil clings to the glass. This was made by someone who knows what they're doing." She said nothing, frozen. "Let me guess," Ethan continued. "You have a natural nose. Maybe since childhood. You can identify individual notes in any perfume, recreate formulas, create your own compositions. But you never studied formally, so you hide it. Call it soap making or a hobby. Anything to avoid admitting you have real talent." Tears pricked Maya's eyes. "You can't possibly understand." "I understand better than anyone," he said. "You think I don't know what it's like to be surrounded by something you love, but feeling like an imposter. At least you have the nose, Maya. You have the gift. You're just too afraid to use it." "Easy for you to say," she shot back, anger flaring. "You inherited your position. Your name opens doors. I'm just a girl from Dorchester with no credentials and no connections. In your world, that makes me nobody." "You're wrong." He set the bottle down carefully. "In my world, talent is everything, and you have it in spades." "I should go," Maya said, turning away. "Wait." His hand caught her wrist, gentle but insistent. "I'm sorry. I pushed too hard. But Maya, please know this. Whatever you choose to do with your gift, it's extraordinary. You're extraordinary." She looked back at him, at the sincerity in those storm-grey eyes, and felt something shift inside her. "The perfume," she said quietly. It's for you. I thought about what you might smell like if you could smell yourself. Strong but not harsh. Complex. A little dark but with light breaking through. Ethan's expression softened into something that made her heart skip. Will you tell me about it? The notes? So she did. And as she described each element, explaining her choices, the story she was trying to tell, something amazing happened. I can smell it, Ethan whispered, his eyes wide. Maya, I can actually smell it. The pepper. It's sharp, almost biting. And underneath, something smooth and warm. The amber and cedar, Maya breathed. They stood together, her wrist still caught in his gentle grip, both of them experiencing something impossible, something miraculous. And Maya realized, with equal parts terror and wonder, that she was falling for him. Absolutely not, Maya said, staring at the dress David had just delivered to her apartment. This costs more than my rent. Sophie, who'd been eating cereal on the futon, nearly choked. Is that Valentino? Mr. Calloway thought you might need something for tonight's dinner, David said diplomatically. The restaurant has a strict dress code. What dinner? Maya demanded. David's expression turned sheepish. Did he not tell you? He's taking you to Mama Maria's, his treat to celebrate your 1-month anniversary as his consultant. 1 month. Had it really been that long since she'd started this strange arrangement? The days had blurred together in a haze of experiments, conversations, and moments that felt increasingly less professional and more something else. He can't just buy me a dress, Maya protested weakly, even as Sophie was already holding it up to her shoulders. Girl, you're wearing this dress, and that's final, Sophie declared. When a billionaire wants to take you to the fanciest Italian restaurant in Boston, you say yes, and you look fabulous doing it. It's not a date, Maya insisted. It's work. Sophie and David exchanged a look that made Maya want to throw her cereal bowl at both of them. Mama Maria's sat tucked away in the North End, Boston's Little Italy, on a cobblestone street that looked like it had been transported directly from Rome. The restaurant was intimate, warm, with exposed brick walls and candlelight that made everything feel like a secret. Ethan stood when Maya arrived, and the look on his face made the uncomfortable dress suddenly worth it. You look beautiful, he said simply. You clean up okay yourself, Maya replied, trying to keep her voice light despite her racing heart. He'd ditched his usual tie, and the open collar of his white shirt made him look younger, less CEO, and more just. A man. They settled into a corner table, and a waiter immediately appeared with wine. The 2015 Barolo, Ethan told him, then looked at Maya. Unless you prefer something else. I usually drink beer from a can, so you're the expert here, Maya said, making him laugh. That laugh. She'd learned it was rare, genuine, and completely transformative. So, Ethan said once the wine was poured, 1 month. We should probably discuss your progress report. My progress report? You've successfully triggered my olfactory response 47 times. We've established that it works best when you're relaxed, authentic, and talking about things you're passionate about. We've also discovered I can smell the perfumes you create. He paused. Though you still insist on calling them experiments. Maya felt her cheeks warm. Over the past month, she'd made 3 more perfumes, each one better than the last. Ethan couldn't smell them directly, only when she was present, but he'd had his lab analyze them. According to his chief perfumer, who'd been told they were samples from a potential new supplier, they were exceptional and unlike anything currently on the market. They're not ready for the real world, Maya said. Why not? Because I'm not ready for the real world. Their food arrived, homemade pasta that smelled heavenly, and they fell into easier conversation. Ethan told her about growing up in Beacon Hill, the pressure of the Calloway name, his father's expectations. Maya found herself sharing stories about Dorchester, her complicated relationship with her mother, her dreams that had felt too big to reach for. My mother used to say that pretty girls from our neighborhood who dreamed too much ended up disappointed, Maya said, twirling pasta on her fork. She worked as a cleaning lady for rich families in Back Bay. Came home every night bitter about lives she'd never have. That must have been hard, Ethan said softly. It made me careful. Too careful, maybe. I learned to keep my head down, not want too much. She met his eyes. And then you came along and made me question all of that. Good, Ethan said. You should question it. Your mother was wrong, Maya. You're not going to end up disappointed. You're going to end up extraordinary. The intensity in his voice, the certainty, made her breath catch. Ethan, I need to tell you something, he said, setting down his wineglass. The board has been pressuring me to bring in a new creative director, someone with a proven track record in fragrance creation. They think the company needs fresh vision. Maya's stomach sank. So you'll be hiring someone. I want it to be you. She stared at him. What? You're the most talented perfumer I've ever encountered, and I've worked with dozens. Your compositions are innovative, emotionally resonant, technically perfect. You're exactly what Calloway Fragrances needs. Ethan, I don't have any credentials, any formal training. I don't care about credentials. I care about talent. He leaned forward. We can create a cover story. Say you studied privately in France, worked under an exclusive perfumer who valued privacy. No one will question it if I vouch for you. You want me to lie? Maya's voice came out sharper than intended. I want you to have the opportunity you deserve, Ethan countered. Maya, you've been hiding your gift your entire life. Don't you think it's time to use it? And what happens when someone discovers the truth? That I'm just a girl who sells flowers, playing dress-up in a world I don't belong in. You do belong. No, I don't. Maya stood abruptly, drawing glances from nearby tables. You don't understand, Ethan. You were born into this world. Your last name opens every door, but me? One wrong move, one person digging into my past, and I'm exposed as a fraud. You're not a fraud, Ethan said firmly, standing as well. A fraud doesn't have your talent, your work ethic, your integrity. You barely know me. I know enough. He moved around the table toward her. I know you're brilliant and scared and so damn talented it keeps me awake at night. I know working with you this past month has been the best part of my days. And I know... He stopped, something shifting in his expression. What? Maya whispered. I know I'm falling for you, he said quietly. And that probably complicates everything. But there it is. Maya's world tilted. Ethan, you don't have to say anything. I just needed you to know. His phone buzzed, and he glanced at it, frowning. It's David. Emergency at the office. The spell broke. They settled the bill quickly and headed back to Calloway Tower in Ethan's car, the air between them charged with unspoken words. The office was in chaos when they arrived. David met them at the elevator, his expression grim. We have a problem, he said. Victoria Chen from Chen Fragrances just announced a hostile takeover bid. Ethan went pale. Victoria? My father's protégé? She's offering 40% above current stock price. The board is seriously considering it. Maya knew Victoria Chen by reputation, ruthless, brilliant, and hungry for power. She'd worked under Ethan's father before starting her own competing company. There's more, David said hesitantly. She's claiming she has evidence that you're not qualified to run the company, that you've been hiding a significant disability. Ethan's jaw clenched. She knows about the anosmia. How? Maya breathed. My father must have told her years ago. Ethan's hands curled into fists. She's planning to use it to undermine me with the board, make them doubt my competence. What do we do? David asked. Ethan was quiet for a long moment, his mind clearly racing. Then his eyes found Maya's. We fight back, he said, and I think I know how. You want me to do what? Maya stared at Ethan like he'd lost his mind. They were in his office at 2 a.m, empty coffee cups littering his desk. David had gone home an hour ago, but Ethan and Maya had stayed, strategizing. I want you to be the face of our new fragrance line, Ethan repeated patiently. We launch a signature collection created by you, announce you as our new creative director, and show the board that Calloway Fragrances is innovating under my leadership. That's your plan to stop a hostile takeover. Hire the girl with 0 credentials. Hire the girl with extraordinary talent, he corrected. Maya, Victoria is counting on the board seeing me as weak, compromised by my condition. But if I bring in fresh talent, launch a successful line, prove the company is thriving, she loses her ammunition. Maya paced to the window, looking out at the Boston skyline. The Prudential Tower glowed in the distance. Somewhere out there was her tiny apartment, her flower cart, her safe, small life. What if I fail? She asked quietly. What if the perfumes flop? Or someone discovers I never studied in France or Grasse or wherever we claim. I won't just ruin my own life, Ethan. I'll destroy yours too. You won't fail. You don't know that. I do. He came to stand beside her at the window. These past weeks, working with you, have taught me something. Talent like yours doesn't need validation from institutions. It validates itself. That's romantic and completely naive, Maya said, but there was no heat in it. Maybe. He smiled slightly. But I'm betting my company on it. So the question is, are you brave enough to bet on yourself? Maya closed her eyes. Her mother's voice echoed in her head. Don't get above your station. Know your place. But then she thought about the perfumes she'd created, the way Ethan's face lit up when he could smell them, the feeling of creating something beautiful, from nothing but instinct and passion. If I do this, she said slowly, we do it right. No lies about studying in France. I'm not going to build a career on falsehoods. Ethan frowned. Then what do we tell people? The truth. That I'm self-taught. That I learned by instinct and experimentation. Some people won't respect it, but at least I'll be able to sleep at night. Maya, that's risky. It's my risk to take. She turned to face him. Those are my terms. Take them or leave them. A slow smile spread across Ethan's face. You're tougher than you think you are. I'm learning from a good teacher. The air between them shifted, became charged. They were standing close enough that Maya could see the exhaustion around his eyes, the stubble darkening his jaw. Without thinking, she reached up and touched his face. You look tired, she said softly. I am tired. His hand came up to cover hers, pressing it against his cheek. Tired of fighting alone. Tired of pretending everything's fine when it's not. Tired of wanting something I'm not sure I should have. What do you want? Maya whispered. Instead of answering, he closed the distance between them and kissed her. It was soft at first, tentative, asking permission. Then Maya's hand slid into his hair, and the kiss deepened, became urgent. She tasted coffee and something uniquely him, felt the barely restrained intensity in the way he pulled her closer. When they finally broke apart, both breathing hard, Ethan rested his forehead against hers. That, he said, I want that. I want you. But Maya, if we do this, if we're together and you work for me, it complicates everything. I know. People will say you only got the position because we're involved. They'll question your credentials even more. I know, Maya repeated. But Ethan, I'm already in this. I've been falling for you since the day you told me I was extraordinary. So maybe we're just making things complicated together. He laughed, the sound low and warm. When did you get so wise? Somewhere between the hostile takeover and the 2 a.m. strategy session. She kissed him again, softer this time. Let's do this. The fragrance line, the truth about my background, all of it. But we do it together. Together, Ethan agreed. The next morning, Maya arrived at Sophie's apartment to find her friend, waiting with bagels, and an expression that said she knew everything. You slept with him, Sophie announced, before Maya even closed the door. I did not, Maya protested, then paused. How do you always know these things? Because you're glowing like someone who got kissed thoroughly at 2 a.m. by a billionaire CEO. Sophie handed her a bagel. Spill. Everything. So Maya did. The dinner, the confession, Victoria's takeover attempt, the job offer, the kiss. All of it. This is like a telenovela, Sophie breathed when Maya finished. You're living in an actual telenovela. That's not helpful. Okay, helpful version. You're in love with him, he's in love with you, and you're about to become a big-deal perfumer. This is good, Maya. This is everything you've wanted but been too scared to reach for. What if I fail? The question came out small, vulnerable. Sophie took her hands. Then you fail, but at least you'll fail trying, which is a hell of a lot better than wondering what if for the rest of your life. The board meeting was scheduled for Friday. 3 days for Maya to create a signature fragrance that would convince the board to reject Victoria's takeover and keep Ethan as CEO. No pressure. She worked around the clock, turning her apartment into a proper laboratory. Ethan had supplies delivered, professional equipment, rare essential oils, chemical compounds she'd only dreamed of working with. Sophie moved in temporarily to make sure she ate and slept. Tell me about the perfume, Ethan said during one of his nightly calls. He'd been stuck in back-to-back meetings with lawyers and board members, but he called every evening at 10. It's a women's fragrance, Maya said, examining a test strip she'd just created. Something powerful but not aggressive. I keep thinking about Boston, about the city itself. The salt air from the harbor, the old brick buildings, the gardens in spring. Urban romance, Ethan mused. Exactly. Top notes of bergamot and sea salt. Heart notes of rose and jasmine, but not sweet, green, almost sharp. And the base one, she smiled. Amber, sandalwood, and a touch of tobacco from the old cigar shops in the North End. It sounds perfect. It sounds like I'm terrified, Maya admitted. Ethan, what if the board hates it? What if they think I'm just some girl you're sleeping with who got promoted above her station? First, we're not sleeping together. Yet. She could hear the smile in his voice. Second, they're going to love it because it's brilliant. And third, the board respects talent and results, that's all that matters. I wish I had your confidence. You do. You're just scared to use it. He paused. Maya, whatever happens Friday, know that I'm proud of you. Not because you might save my company, but because you finally stopped hiding. After they hung up, Maya stood in her apartment surrounded by bottles and test strips, and the physical evidence of her secret talent laid bare. She was done hiding. Friday morning dawned cold and clear. Maya dressed carefully in a black sheath dress Sophie had helped her pick out. Professional but not trying too hard. She carried the perfume in a sleek bottle David had sourced, simple and elegant. The boardroom was intimidating. 12 people sat around a massive table, most of them old enough to be her parents. Ethan sat at the head, looking every inch the CEO in a charcoal suit, but she could see the tension in his shoulders. Victoria Chen sat to his right, beautiful and predatory in a red power suit. She looked at Maya like a cat eyeing a mouse. Ladies and gentlemen, Ethan began, thank you for coming. As you know, Victoria has made an offer to acquire Calloway Fragrances. Before you make your decision, I'd like to present our new direction. Maya Bennett, our creative director, has created what I believe will be our signature fragrance for the next decade. Maya stood on shaking legs, every eye in the room fixed on her. Miss Bennett, said Charles Whitmore, the board chairman, an elderly man with kind eyes. Your resume indicates you're self-taught, no formal education in perfumery. That's highly unusual. It is, Maya agreed, her voice steadier than she felt. I learned through experimentation, instinct, and a lifetime of working with scent. I understand if that makes you skeptical. It makes me curious, Victoria interjected, her voice honey-sweet. Tell me, Miss Bennett, what makes you qualified to lead creative direction for a company with 80 years of history? Maya met her eyes. Passion, talent, and a belief that the best art doesn't always come from traditional paths. She opened the bottle, and the perfume's scent filled the room. Maya watched the board members' reactions. Surprise, interest, approval. It's called Harbor Light, Maya said. It's Boston in a bottle. The salt air and old brick, the romance and grit, the way the city feels both historic and alive. It's who we are. Silence fell. Then Charles Whitmore smiled. It's exceptional, he said simply. Miss Chen, your offer is generous, but I believe Calloway Fragrances is exactly where it needs to be. The vote was 9-3 in Ethan's favor. Victoria's smile never wavered, but her eyes promised this wasn't over. She left with a curt nod, leaving Maya and Ethan to face the congratulations of the board. They'd won. For now. 3 months later, Maya stood in the Calloway Fragrances flagship store on Newbury Street, watching customers line up to buy Harbor Light. The launch had exceeded every projection. Fashion magazines called it revolutionary. Beauty influencers declared it the scent of the year. Even the notoriously harsh critics at Fragrance Foundation gave it a rare perfect score. Maya Bennett, the self-taught perfumer from Dorchester, was a success. So why did she feel like she was waiting for the other shoe to drop? You're doing it again, Ethan said, appearing beside her with 2 cups of coffee from Thinking Cup. That thing where you look worried despite having everything you wanted. I'm not worried, Maya lied, accepting the coffee. Just processing. They'd been together officially for 2 months now, though they kept it quiet at the office. Maya had her own apartment still, a much nicer one in the South End, courtesy of her new salary, but she spent most nights at Ethan's brownstone in Beacon Hill. Liar, Ethan said fondly. Talk to me. Maya sighed. I keep waiting for someone to expose me, to dig into my past and find out I'm just a flower girl who got lucky. You're not lucky. You're talented. He'd said it 1,000 times, but she still struggled to believe it. Miss Bennett? A young woman approached nervously. I'm sorry to bother you, but I just wanted to say Harbor Light is incredible. It makes me feel powerful and beautiful at the same time. Maya felt her chest warm. Thank you, that means everything. After the woman left, Ethan raised an eyebrow. See? Not a fraud. A perfumer whose work makes people feel powerful and beautiful. Okay, Maya laughed. Maybe I'm being paranoid. Her phone buzzed. Sophie's name flashed on the screen with a 911 emoji. I need to take this, Maya said, stepping outside onto Newbury Street. Soph? What's wrong? Maya. Sophie's voice was shaky. Someone came to the flower cart today. A reporter from Boston Business Journal. She was asking questions about you, your background, your education, how you got the job at Calloway. Ice flooded Maya's veins. What did you tell her? Nothing. I said I didn't know anything about your work life, but Maya, she seemed to know things. She mentioned your mom, asked if you'd really studied in France. Sophie paused. This felt coordinated, like someone fed her information. Victoria, it had to be Victoria. Okay, thanks for the warning, I'll handle it. But when she returned inside, Ethan was on his phone, his expression grim. He ended the call when he saw her face. What happened? They asked simultaneously. You first, Ethan said. Maya told him about the reporter. His jaw tightened with each word. Victoria, he said flatly. She's been quiet for 3 months. I should have known she was planning something. What was your call about? The same reporter contacted our PR department. She's writing a piece about you, about how you have no verifiable credentials, no record of studying anywhere, and how convenient it is that you're dating the CEO. Maya felt sick. So she's going to call me a fraud and imply I slept my way into the job. She's going to try. Ethan's voice was hard. But we're not going to let her. Ethan, maybe she's right. Maybe I don't belong. Stop. He took her shoulders gently but firmly. You've earned everything you have. Your talent earned it. Your work earned it. Yes, we're together. But that doesn't diminish what you've accomplished. The public won't see it that way. Then we change the narrative. He was already texting someone. I'm calling an emergency meeting with PR. We get ahead of this story, control the message. But Maya barely heard him. She was thinking about her mother, about a lifetime of being told she wasn't good enough, didn't belong. Maybe her mother had been right all along. The emergency PR meeting lasted 4 hours. The strategy was simple. Complete transparency. They'd give an exclusive interview to Boston Magazine, tell Maya's story themselves before the Business Journal could spin it. We emphasize the American dream angle, said Jennifer Park, their PR director. Self-made woman, natural talent, broke barriers. People love an underdog story. What about the relationship? Maya asked quietly. We're honest about that too, Ethan said. We disclose the timeline, make it clear you earned your position before we got involved. Even though we both know I got the position because you were desperate to save your company from Victoria, Maya said. You got the position because you're brilliant, Ethan corrected. Saving the company was a happy side effect. The interview was scheduled for the following week. In the meantime, Maya threw herself into work, creating 2 new fragrances for their spring line. Work was safe. Work didn't require her to examine her feelings or confront her fears. But Ethan noticed. He always noticed. You're shutting down, he said one evening in his home office. Maya had been working on formulas for hours, barely speaking. I'm focusing. You're hiding. He closed her laptop gently. Maya, talk to me. What do you want me to say? The words burst out sharp with frustration. That I'm terrified? That every day I wait for someone to prove I don't belong? That maybe Victoria's right and I'm just a girl who got lucky because you needed something only I could give you? Is that what you really think? Ethan's voice was quiet, dangerous. That the only reason I'm with you is because of some medical anomaly? I don't know what to think anymore. Then let me make it clear. He stood, moving around the desk. Yes, you triggered something impossible in me. Yes, that's how we met. But Maya, I fell in love with you because you're funny and fierce and so talented, it takes my breath away. Because you challenge me, and see through my bullshit and make me want to be better. Maya felt tears prick her eyes. Ethan, I fell in love with the woman who creates perfumes that tell stories, who talks about flowers like poetry, who was brave enough to risk everything on a gift she'd been hiding her whole life. He cupped her face. The anosmia thing? That's just how we met. It's not why I love you. You love me, Maya whispered. Desperately, inconveniently, completely. He smiled. I thought that was obvious. I love you too, Maya said, and kissed him like it was the first time, and the last time, and every time in between. The Boston Magazine interview ran the following Thursday. The headline read, "The Nose That Broke All the Rules, Maya Bennett's Unconventional Rise in the Fragrance World." It was honest, thorough, and painted Maya as exactly what she was, a talented woman who'd taken an unconventional path to success. The response was overwhelmingly positive. Social media exploded with support. Other self-taught artists reached out to share their stories. Maya was in her office reading the comments when David knocked on her door. "You have a visitor," he said carefully. "Victoria Chen." Maya's blood ran cold. "What does she want?" "To talk. Alone." Every instinct screamed at Maya to refuse, but she was done running from things that scared her. "Send her in." Victoria entered like she owned the place, elegant in Chanel, her smile sharp as glass. "Congratulations on the article," Victoria said, settling into a chair uninvited. "Quite the puff piece. Jennifer Park does excellent work." "What do you want, Victoria?" "To offer you a deal." Victoria crossed her legs. "Come work for Chen Fragrances. I'll triple your salary, give you complete creative control, and you'll never have to worry about being Ethan Calloway's girlfriend who got a job." "I'm not interested." "Of course you are. You're smart enough to know this won't last." Victoria's voice turned cold. "Ethan needs you for one thing, to trigger his olfactory response. The moment that stops working, or the moment he finds someone else who can do it, you're disposable." "You're wrong about him." "Am I? Let me tell you about Ethan's father, Richard. Brilliant man, ruthless businessman. He used people's talents until they had nothing left to give, then discarded them." Victoria's smile turned bitter. "I should know. I gave him 10 years of my life, created a dozen best-selling fragrances, and when I asked for partnership, he offered me a pay raise and a pat on the head." Maya felt a flicker of sympathy despite herself. "I'm sorry that happened to you. Save your pity. I built my own empire after he threw me away, and I'm offering you a chance to avoid the same fate." Victoria stood. "Think about it, Maya. Because mark my words, Ethan Calloway is his father's son, and when he's done with you, I'll be here." After Victoria left, Maya sat in silence, her mind churning. She knew Ethan wasn't his father. She knew he loved her, but a small poisonous voice whispered, "What if Victoria's right?" Maya didn't tell Ethan about Victoria's visit. She told herself it was because she didn't want to worry him, but the truth was more complicated. Victoria's words had burrowed under her skin like splinters, painful and impossible to ignore. What if she was right? What if Maya was just useful? The doubts manifested in small ways. She worked longer hours creating new fragrances obsessively, as if proving her worth through productivity. She pulled away when Ethan reached for her, claiming exhaustion. She stopped sharing her ideas freely in meetings, suddenly self-conscious about every contribution. "Maya, what's going on?" Ethan asked one night in his brownstone. She'd been staring at her laptop for an hour without typing a word. "Nothing. Just tired." "You've been just tired for 2 weeks." He closed her laptop. "Talk to me, please." "I'm fine, Ethan." "You're not fine. You're shutting me out." His voice held frustration and hurt. "Is it the article, the pressure? Are you having second thoughts about us?" "No, Maya stood, needing space. "I just need some air." She grabbed her coat and fled to Boston Common, needing the cold November night to clear her head. She ended up on a bench near the frog pond, watching late-night joggers and trying to untangle the mess in her mind. Her phone buzzed. "Sophie." "Hey," Maya answered. "Where are you?" "Ethan just called me freaking out." "Boston Common." "I needed space." "From what?" "From everything. From him. From the constant feeling that I'm going to wake up and this will all disappear." Sophie sighed. "Maya, sweetie, what happened? 2 weeks ago you were happy. Now you sound like you're planning an escape route." So Maya told her. About Victoria's visit, the offer, the story about Ethan's father. And you believe her? Sophie's voice was sharp. Victoria Chen, who tried to steal his company, who's been gunning for him for months. I don't know what I believe anymore, Maya said miserably. What if I'm just convenient? What if the only reason I'm here is because I can trigger his sense of smell? Then test it, Sophie said simply. Ask him directly. Stop torturing yourself with maybes and what-ifs. After they hung up, Maya sat in the cold, thinking. Sophie was right. She couldn't keep running from her fears. She had to face them. She returned to the brownstone to find Ethan pacing the living room, phone in hand, looking more worried than she'd ever seen him. I'm sorry, Maya said from the doorway. I shouldn't have run. Maya, he crossed to her in 3 strides, pulling her into his arms. God, you scared me. I don't know what I thought. She let herself be held for a moment, breathing in his cologne, the one she'd made for him, the one he wore every day. Then she pulled back. I need to ask you something, and I need you to be completely honest. Wariness crept into his expression. Okay. Victoria came to see me 2 weeks ago. She offered me a job and told me about your father, how he used her talents and then discarded her. Maya forced herself to meet his eyes. Is that true? Ethan's face went still. Yes. My father could be ruthless. He hurt a lot of people, including Victoria. And am I... Her voice broke slightly. Am I here because I'm talented, or because I'm useful, because I can give you something no one else can? Maya, how can you ask me that? Because I need to know. The words burst out raw and desperate. I need to know if I'm your creative director or your medical solution, if you love me or if you love what I can do for you. Ethan looked like she'd slapped him. You think I'm using you? I think I need to hear the truth. He turned away, running a hand through his hair. When he spoke, his voice was tight with controlled emotion. When you first walked into my life, yes, you were a mystery I needed to solve, a phenomenon I didn't understand. And yes, the fact that you could trigger my olfactory response was important. Maya's heart sank. But, Ethan continued, turning back to face her, somewhere between that first meeting and now, you became everything. Not because of what you could give me, but because of who you are. Your talent, your humor, your strength, the way you see beauty in everything. His voice softened. Maya, I would love you even if I could never smell you again, even if I went back to living in that silent, odorless world, because you're the only person who's ever seen all of me, the disability, the fear, the pressure, and loved me anyway. Tears streamed down Maya's face. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. Victoria got in my head and I let her. Victoria told you what you were already afraid to believe, Ethan said gently, that you're not good enough, that you don't deserve this. Maya, when are you going to see yourself the way I see you? I'm trying, she whispered. He pulled her close again, and this time she didn't pull away. I know, but you have to trust me. Trust us. Trust that what we have is real, not some transaction or convenience. I do trust you, Maya said against his chest. I'm just scared. So am I, every day. He kissed the top of her head. But I'd rather be scared with you than safe without you. They stood like that for a long time, holding each other in the quiet brownstone while Boston hummed outside. The next morning, Maya arrived at the office determined to put Victoria's poison behind her. She was heading to her office when she heard raised voices from the conference room. Ethan's voice, angry, and a woman's, but not Victoria's. Maya opened the door to find Ethan facing an elegant older woman in her 60s, impeccably dressed, with the same grey eyes as Ethan, his mother. You must be Maya, the woman said, her tone glacial. I'm Patricia Calloway. Mother, this is not the time, Ethan started. It's exactly the time. Patricia turned to Maya, her expression disdainful. I've heard about you, Miss Bennett, the self-taught perfumer who's enchanted my son. Patricia, Ethan's voice held a warning. Let me be clear, Patricia continued. My husband built this company through decades of expertise and connections. The Calloway name means something in this industry, and I won't stand by and watch my son throw away that legacy for some girl from Dorchester with delusions of grandeur. Maya felt like she'd been punched. Excuse me? You heard me. You may have fooled Ethan with your little parlor trick, but I see through you. You're using his disability to manipulate him, to gain access to wealth and status you could never achieve on your own. That's enough. Ethan slammed his hand on the table. Mother, you need to leave. Now. I'm trying to save you from making a mistake. The only mistake I made was not standing up to you and Father years ago. Ethan's voice was cold, controlled. You want to talk about the Calloway legacy. Father built his empire on other people's talents, taking credit for work he didn't do, using people until they broke. That's not a legacy I'm proud of. Patricia's face went white. How dare you? I dare because it's true. And Maya is nothing like what you're accusing her of being. She's the most talented perfumer I've ever worked with. She earned her position through merit, and she makes me happier than I've ever been. He moved to stand beside Maya, taking her hand. If you can't accept that, then you're not welcome here. Patricia looked between them, her expression a mixture of shock and fury. You're choosing her over your own family? I'm choosing my own life over your expectations. Ethan's grip on Maya's hand tightened. Now please leave. After Patricia swept out, Maya turned to Ethan, her heart breaking at the pain in his eyes. I'm sorry, she said. I'm so sorry you had to. Don't apologize. He pulled her into his arms. She's wrong about you, about everything, and I meant what I said. You're my choice, Maya, every time. But as Maya held him, she couldn't shake the feeling that choosing her had cost him something important, something she could never give back. That evening, Maya sat in her apartment, the first time in weeks she'd spent a night alone. She needed space to think, to process. Her phone rang. Unknown number. Hello? Maya Bennett? A professional female voice. This is Dr. Sarah Chen from Mass General Neurology Department. I was reviewing Ethan Calloway's medical files for an unrelated consultation when I noticed something interesting about his case. Maya's pulse quickened. Okay? His anosmia is congenital, yes, but the medical notes indicate it might be psychosomatic in origin, meaning the physical structures are intact, but psychological trauma is blocking his sense of smell. Dr. Chen paused. Has he ever mentioned experiencing traumatic stress in early childhood? No, he's never said anything. I'm not his primary physician, so I can't speak to specifics. But if his condition is psychosomatic, then it's possible certain triggers, emotional, psychological, could temporarily override the block. That might explain why he can smell in your presence. After the call ended, Maya sat in stunned silence. It wasn't her perfumes. It wasn't some medical miracle. It was psychology, emotion. The fact that with her, Ethan felt safe enough to let down walls he'd built since childhood, which meant Victoria had been wrong, and Patricia had been wrong. Ethan didn't need Maya because of what she could give him. He just needed her. Maya found Ethan on the roof deck of his brownstone, staring out at the Boston skyline. The December air was bitter cold, but he didn't seem to notice. Your assistant said you've been up here for 2 hours, Maya said softly, joining him at the railing. Just thinking. He didn't look at her. About my mother, about what she said. Maybe she's right, Maya. Maybe I am selfish for dragging you into my complicated life. Stop. Maya took his hand. I need to tell you something. I got a call from a neurologist at Mass General. She explained everything. The psychosomatic diagnosis, the childhood trauma theory, what it all meant. Ethan was quiet for a long time. When he finally spoke, his voice was rough with emotion. When I was 6, my father caught me crying because the other kids at school were talking about how cookies smelled, and I couldn't understand. He told me Calloways don't show weakness, that I needed to be stronger, smarter, better than everyone else to compensate. Ethan's jaw clenched. From that day on, I learned to hide everything, every fear, every vulnerability, every moment of doubt. I built walls so high, I forgot what it felt like to be vulnerable. Maya squeezed his hand, letting him continue. Then you caught me when I fell, literally and figuratively, and for the first time in 22 years, I felt safe enough to let those walls crack. He finally looked at her, his eyes bright with unshed tears. It was never about your perfumes, Maya. It was always about you making me feel like I could be myself. Broken parts and all. You're not broken, Maya said fiercely. You're human. And Ethan, I need you to hear this. I don't need you to smell me. I don't need you to experience my perfumes. I just need you. Even after everything? My mother, Victoria, all the complications? Especially after everything. Maya cupped his face. You chose me over your mother's approval, over legacy and expectations. You defended me when your whole world told you not to. That's not selfish, Ethan. That's the bravest thing anyone's ever done for me. He kissed her then, deep and desperate, and Maya tasted salt. His tears or hers, she couldn't tell. I love you, he whispered against her lips. God, Maya, I love you so much. I love you too, all of you. The brilliant CEO and the scared little boy. The man who built an empire and the man who's learning it's okay to need someone. They stood wrapped in each other as snow began to fall over Boston, soft and silent. 6 months later, Maya stood in the Boston Convention Center, surrounded by the fragrance industry's elite. The annual Fragrance Foundation Awards ceremony was in full swing, and she was wearing a stunning emerald gown Sophie had helped her pick out. Nervous? Ethan murmured beside her, looking devastatingly handsome in a tuxedo. Terrified, Maya admitted. Harbor Light had been nominated for Fragrance of the Year. When they announced her name as the winner, Maya's hands shook as she walked to the stage. The applause was thunderous. Thank you, she said into the microphone, her voice steadier than she felt. A year ago, I was selling flowers in Faneuil Hall, hiding a gift I was too scared to share. I want to thank Ethan Calloway for seeing my potential when I couldn't see it myself, for teaching me that talent without credentials is still talent. That unconventional paths can lead to extraordinary places. She found his eyes in the crowd. But mostly for showing me that being vulnerable isn't weakness. It's the bravest thing we can do. The applause grew louder, and Maya saw several people wiping their eyes. After the ceremony, they escaped to a quiet corner of the after-party. That was quite a speech, Ethan said, handing her champagne. I meant every word. Maya clinked her glass against his. Thank you for believing in me. Always. He reached into his pocket. Actually, I have something for you. He pulled out a small velvet box, and Maya's heart stopped. Before you panic, Ethan said quickly. This isn't a ring. Not yet, anyway. I know we've only been together 8 months, and you need time, and I'm not trying to rush. Ethan, Maya laughed. Show me. He opened the box to reveal a delicate gold necklace with a small vial pendant. It contains Harbor Light, Ethan explained. Your first creation as a professional perfumer. I wanted you to have a reminder that you did this. You took a chance on yourself and changed everything. Maya's eyes filled with tears. It's perfect. As he fastened it around her neck, she felt the weight of the pendant settle against her heart, a physical reminder of how far she'd come. I have something for you too, Maya said. She pulled a small bottle from her clutch. I've been working on this for months. It's for you. Ethan took it carefully, examining the amber liquid. What is it? Try it. He applied a small amount to his wrist, and his eyes widened. I can smell it. Citrus and wood, cedar, bergamot and sandalwood, with notes of black tea and rain. Maya smiled. It's called Beacon, for Beacon Hill, where you live, for being a beacon when I was lost, for light breaking through darkness. Ethan's expression was awed. Maya, this is incredible. It's for your personal line. We launch next spring. She grinned. I already cleared it with the board. He laughed, pulling her close. Have I mentioned I love you? Once or twice. Maya kissed him softly, but I never get tired of hearing it. 1 year later, Maya stood in her corner office at Calloway Tower, now Calloway and Bennett Fragrances, after Ethan had insisted she become a full partner, looking out at Boston Harbor. Her flower cart was long gone, run by a young woman Maya mentored. Her mother had called once after seeing her on the cover of Vogue. The conversation awkward, but a start. Sophie was now head of retail operations, living her best life. And Ethan, ready? He asked from the doorway. Maya turned to see him in jeans and a sweater. They were taking the weekend off, something they'd gotten better at. Where are we going again? It's a surprise. His eyes twinkled. But you might want to bring a coat, and maybe pack a bag. 3 hours later, they arrived at a beautiful inn in the Berkshires, surrounded by fall foliage and mountain air. Ethan, this is gorgeous, Maya breathed. Wait until you see inside. The inn had been transformed into a private perfume workshop, complete with every piece of equipment a perfumer could dream of. I thought we could create something together, Ethan said. No pressure, no deadlines, no board meetings, just us, playing with scent. Maya felt tears prick her eyes. "You're perfect, you know that?" "I'm really not." He pulled her close. "But I'm perfect for you. And that's all that matters." They spent the weekend creating, laughing, making love, and simply being together. On Sunday morning, Maya woke to find Ethan watching her with an expression that made her heart skip. "What?" she asked sleepily. "Marry me." Maya sat up, suddenly wide awake. "What?" Ethan pulled out a ring, vintage, beautiful, with a square-cut diamond that caught the morning light. "I know this is probably not the romantic proposal you dreamed of. I don't have a speech prepared, and I'm still in my pajamas, but Maya, I can't wait anymore. I want to spend every morning waking up next to you. I want to build a life and a company and a family with you. I want everything." "Yes," Maya said, laughing and crying at once. "Yes, yes, 1,000 times yes." He slid the ring onto her finger, and it fit perfectly. "How long have you been planning this?" Maya asked. "Since the night you made me beacon. Maybe before that." Ethan kissed her softly. "You changed my life, Maya Bennett. You taught me how to be vulnerable, how to trust, how to see myself as something more than my limitations. You gave me back my sense of smell, yes, but more importantly, you gave me back my sense of self." "You did the same for me," Maya whispered. "You saw me when I was invisible. You believed in me when I didn't believe in myself. You taught me that I'm enough exactly as I am." They held each other as sunlight streamed through the windows, the scent of pine and autumn air mixing with the perfumes they'd created the night before. And for the first time in both their lives, they felt completely, perfectly whole. The end. 2 years later, Maya stood in the nursery of their Beacon Hill brownstone, holding their 3-month-old daughter, Lily. "Someone wants her daddy," Maya said as Ethan entered, freshly showered after his morning run. He took Lily carefully, his whole face softening. "Hello, beautiful girl." Maya watched them together, her heart full. Ethan buried his face in Lily's wispy dark hair, breathing deeply. "Can you smell her?" Maya asked. "Baby shampoo and something sweet, something uniquely her." He looked up, his eyes bright. "I can smell her, Maya. My daughter. I can actually smell my daughter." Maya felt tears slide down her cheeks. The psychosomatic barrier had continued to break down over time. Ethan could now smell most things, not with the sensitivity of a trained perfumer, but enough to experience the world in a way he never had before. But the strongest scents, the ones that hit him most powerfully, were always connected to love, to Maya, to their daughter, to home. "I was thinking," Ethan said, swaying gently with Lily, "we should create a fragrance inspired by her. Something fresh and innocent and full of possibility. New beginnings," Maya suggested, "for our spring collection." "Perfect." He kissed Lily's forehead, then reached out to pull Maya close with his free arm. "Everything is perfect." And standing there in the early morning light, surrounded by the family they'd built and the life they'd created, Maya had to agree. She'd spent so long believing she wasn't enough, that she didn't belong in Ethan's world. But she'd been wrong. She belonged exactly where she was, in his arms, in their home, in the company they'd built together. Not because she was useful or convenient or could trigger some medical miracle, but because she was loved, and because she'd finally learned to love herself. The scent of flowers and vanilla still lingered around her, just as it had that day in Faneuil Hall when everything changed. But now it was mixed with other scents. Ethan's cologne, baby powder, fresh coffee brewing downstairs, the perfumes they created together. It was the scent of home, of family, of a life built on trust, vulnerability, and love. It was the scent of everything she'd ever wanted and never dared to dream she could have. It was, quite simply, perfect.